All right, so are you ready to kind of change the way you think about speaking English?
Hmm. I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Okay, so we're doing a deep dive today on this YouTube video. It's by this language instructor, Shalima,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of her.
and she's got this 30-day course, right, to boost your spoken English confidence. And her approach, I gotta say, it's so simple
Okay.
that it's almost unbelievable.
I'm always a little bit,
Yeah,
skeptical of those like quick fix language courses,
right.
but I'm curious.
Yeah, well, day one,
Okay.
she focuses on what she calls her two golden rules.
Hmm.
And honestly, they kind of blew my mind.
All right, I'm ready. What are these magical rules?
Okay, so get this.
Yeah.
She claims that pretty much everything that we say in like everyday English
Uh-huh.
boils down to just two types of actions.
Okay.
Things that are happening now and things that are finished.
Oh, wow.
It's all about, I am plus ing for ongoing stuff and I have plus past participle for completed actions.
I mean, that is simple,
Right.
but is it really enough to unlock fluency?
English grammar can get pretty complex.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
But see, Shalima argues that these two rules, they're like the foundation,
Okay.
the building blocks, and
Mhm.
once you master them, you can express like a huge range of thoughts and ideas without getting bogged down in all the
Right.
complicated grammar rules.
I see where she's going with this.
Yeah.
It's like you get comfortable with those core structures first,
Yes.
and then you can kind of build up the complexity from there.
Exactly.
It's like mastering those basic chords before you try to play like jazz guitar or something.
Exactly. And so to illustrate this, Shalima walks us through some like common scenarios, right? Like ordering food at a restaurant,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
having a phone chat with a friend.
Right.
She even gives these sample dialogues showing how natural
Okay.
these two rules sound in real conversations.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Give me an example. What does one of these dialogues sound like? Okay, all right. So imagine you're at a job interview,
Yeah.
and the interviewer says, "Tell me about your experience."
Mm-hmm.
You could confidently respond with something like, "I have worked as a software developer for 5 years." You see?
I have to admit, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
I mean, by focusing on these core structures, it's like she's giving people a way to kind of bypass that fear of making grammar mistakes.
Yes.
So they can start speaking more confidently right away.
Yes. Exactly. And that confidence is key because Shalima believes that's what really holds people back from like speaking fluently.
Oh, for sure.
It's not about being perfect.
Yeah,
It's about being willing to communicate, even if you make a few mistakes along the way.
that's such an important point. So many language learners get stuck in this cycle of like fear and self-doubt.
Oh,
They're so worried about making mistakes.
Yeah.
They end up not speaking at all.
Right. And Shalima addresses this head on. She actually dedicates a whole segment
Good.
to pointing out common mistakes that people make with these two basic structures, like saying, "I am completed my work,"
Oh, yeah.
instead of "I have completed my work."
It's interesting that she focuses on those specific errors.
Yeah.
I feel like those small slips can really trip people up.
Yeah,
And they often stem from like trying to overthink the grammar.
totally. And it's like she's anticipating the challenges that learners will face
Right.
and giving them the tools to overcome them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of tools, get this. Each day of her course also introduces 5 new vocabulary words.
5 words a day.
5 words a day.
That's a serious vocabulary boost.
Yeah.
What were some of the words from day one? Anything particularly interesting?
Oh, definitely. So enhance and implement caught my eye.
Those are good ones. You could say, I am implementing these 2 golden rules to enhance my English fluency.
See? You're already getting the hang of it.
Huh.
But it gets even better, so Shalima doesn't just give you the definitions.
Right.
She gives examples of how to use these words in real sentences. So you can start using them right away.
It's all about making it practical and applicable,
Yeah.
not just theoretical knowledge.
Exactly.
I like her style.
Me too. And her emphasis on practicality extends to her approach to practice. Okay? So she gives some pretty specific challenges, like recording yourself,
Oh, wow.
speaking for 1 minute using both golden rules.
Okay, that's a clever way to get people talking.
Right.
It forces you to think on your feet and actually apply the rules,
Yes.
in the spontaneous way. Did she talk at all about getting feedback on those practice sessions?
Absolutely. In fact, she encourages viewers to share their practice videos in the comments
Hmm.
for feedback from other learners.
Interesting. That's a great way to create a sense of community
Right.
and encourage that peer-to-peer learning.
Yeah.
You get to see how other people are using the rules, learn from their mistakes, and offer support and encouragement.
It's like building this virtual language learning buddy system.
Right.
And that kind of support can be so invaluable, especially when you're feeling stuck or discouraged. But before we get, too deep into the community aspect, let's
Yeah.
pull back for a second.
Yeah. We've covered a lot of ground already.
Mm-hmm.
Just from day one of her course,
Mm-hmm.
we've got these two deceptively simple rules.
Yeah.
We've got practical scenarios. We've got vocabulary boosts,
Yeah.
a focus on community learning. It's pretty impressive.
It is. But we've only scratched the surface.
Right.
Shalima hints at even more exciting stuff coming up in future lessons, like how to use modal verbs effectively and how to frame more complex sentences.
Oh, okay.
But for now, I think it's time for a quick break to let all of this sink in. What stands out to you so far?
Honestly, I'm still a bit blown away by the simplicity of those two golden rules.
Right.
I'm curious to see how much mileage you can really get out of them.
Right. It almost seems too good to be true.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling we're just getting started. We'll be back soon to unpack even more of Shalima's secrets to spoken English confidence. Stay tuned.
Sounds good. Those two golden rules,
Yeah.
as simple as they are,
Yeah.
they really highlight how we structure sentences in English.
Right.
Maybe that's why they feel so powerful.
That's a great point. They're like the skeleton of a sentence.
Right.
And you can dress them up with different words and phrases to create like endless variations.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like she's cracked the code of spoken English and distilled it down into these two like bite-sized pieces.
It makes you wonder, could this same approach work for other languages?
Ooh.
Do other languages have similar,
Yeah.
fundamental structures that you could gotta use to unlock fluency?
No, that's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
I would love to hear from any linguists out there who might have insights on that.
Yeah.
But getting back to Shalima's method,
Okay.
we were talking about the importance of practice.
Yeah.
She gives that challenge to record yourself speaking for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But did she have any other tips to make practice more effective?
She does. One technique she emphasizes is shadow practice,
Okay.
which involves repeating phrases and sentences after a native speaker.
Okay.
It's all about mimicking their rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation.
Ah, so it's like you're trying to become their shadow,
Exactly.
speaking in sync with them.
Yes.
That sounds like a fun way to kind of get a feel for the natural flow of the language.
It helps you internalize the subtle nuances that go beyond just the words themselves.
Right.
And it can be surprisingly effective.
Cool.
Another tip she gives is to practice in front of a mirror.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess it's about becoming more aware of your own, like, body language and facial expressions, right?
Precisely. Nonverbal communication is a huge part of speaking any language.
Yeah.
By practicing in front of a mirror, you can see how you're coming across and make adjustments if needed.
Yeah,
It can help boost your confidence, too, seeing yourself speak fluently and naturally.
that's so true. And of course, there's always the option of recording yourself and watching it back.
Yes.
It can feel a bit awkward at first,
Oh, yeah.
but it can be incredibly helpful to kind of see yourself from an outside perspective.
Absolutely. It allows you to identify areas where you can improve your pronunciation, intonation, or even your body language. And it's a great way to track your progress over time.
Yeah.
As you watch those recordings, you'll see yourself becoming more confident and fluent.
I love that. It's like having your own personal language coach right there in your pocket.
Right.
And speaking of coaches, remember, Shalima encourages everyone to share their practice videos in the comments section.
Yes, that peer feedback element is brilliant.
Yeah.
It creates a supportive community where learners can help each other, share tips, and offer encouragement.
Uh-huh.
It takes the pressure off of feeling like you have to be perfect all the time.
It's about creating a safe space to experiment, make mistakes, and learn from each other.
Totally.
And I think that's crucial because so often language learning can feel isolating and intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
But Shalima really emphasizes that you're not alone in this journey.
Right. And that kind of supportive community can be a powerful motivator,
Yeah.
especially when you're feeling stuck or discouraged.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that everyone makes mistakes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's part of the learning process.
Totally. Let's shift gears for a minute and talk about those common mistakes that Shalima highlighted.
Okay?
She really emphasized that using the correct tense is crucial.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where those two golden rules become so valuable.
Huh?
They give you a framework for understanding the basic tense structures in English,
Right.
which can be tricky, especially for learners whose native languages have very different grammatical rules.
It's like she's giving you a roadmap to navigate the sometimes confusing world of English tenses.
Well, exactly.
And by pointing out those common mistakes, like saying, I am completed my work, instead of, I have completed my work, she's helping learners avoid those pitfalls.
It's about developing that awareness of how the tenses work and when to use which one.
Right.
And I think that's where practice comes in. The more you practice using those two golden rules in different contexts, the more natural it will become to choose the correct tense without even thinking about it.
It's like training your brain to automatically use the right structures.
Yes.
Just like a native speaker would.
Exactly.
And that leads to greater fluency and confidence.
Absolutely.
But let's not forget about those vocabulary boosts. We talked about enhance and implement.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear about some other interesting words from day one.
Well, observe stood out to me.
Oh, okay.
Such a versatile word.
Yeah.
And you could use it to talk about your language learning process. I am observing how native speakers use these two golden rules in everyday conversations.
That's a great example. By consciously observing how native speakers use the language, you can pick up on those subtle nuances that textbooks often miss.
Exactly.
You
It's
know?
about immersing yourself in the language and paying attention to how it's used in real-life situations.
Yeah.
And another word that caught my eye was confident. It seems fitting, given Shalima's emphasis on building confidence as a key to fluency.
I love that. You could say, I am feeling more confident about speaking English after just one day of this course.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how a simple shift in mindset can make such a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
When you believe in yourself and your ability to learn,
Yeah.
you're more likely to take risks, make mistakes, and keep practicing, even when it gets tough.
Absolutely. And Shalima really reinforces that positive mindset throughout her course.
Right.
She constantly reminds viewers that it's okay to make mistakes, that mistakes are actually a sign that you're learning and growing.
It's about embracing the journey,
Mhm.
not just focusing on the destination.
Right.
And I think that's a valuable lesson that applies far beyond language learning.
It's about having that growth mindset,
Yeah.
that belief that you can always improve and develop your skills.
Yeah.
But before we get too philosophical,
Okay.
let's bring it back to Shalima's method.
Yeah.
We've only covered day one, and I'm curious to see what other insights she has to offer in the rest of the course.
Me too.
Yeah.
She hinted at some pretty exciting things coming up, like how to use modal verbs to express yourself more effectively.
Oh, yeah.
Those can be tricky,
Yeah.
but they add so much nuance to your language.
Right. And she also mentioned covering some more advanced techniques for framing sentences,
Uh-huh.
which I think will be really helpful for those who are ready to go beyond those two golden rules.
It's like she's building a staircase to fluency,
Yeah.
one step at a time,
Right.
starting with those foundational rules and then gradually introducing more complex structures and vocabulary.
And let's not forget those daily vocabulary boosts.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to see what other gems she uncovers in the next 29 days.
It's like a linguistic treasure hunt.
It is.
But we've covered a lot of ground already,
Yeah.
and I think it's time to step back for a moment and reflect on everything we've learned so far.
Okay.
What are your biggest takeaways from Shalima's approach?
For me, it's the way she manages to break down something as complex as spoken English into such simple, manageable steps.
Yeah.
It's like she's demystifying the process and making it accessible to anyone who's willing to put in the effort.
I completely agree. It's about making language learning feel achievable, not overwhelming.
Yes.
And it's about shifting the focus from perfection to progress, from fear of mistakes to the joy of learning something new.
Beautifully said. But we're not done yet.
Right.
There's still so much more to explore in Shalima's 30-day course.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll delve into some final thoughts on her method and what it means for language learners everywhere.
It sounds good.
Stay with us. Okay, so we're back
Back again.
for the final leg of our deep dive into Shalima's 30-day spoken English course.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we unpacked from just the first day.
I know, right? From those two deceptively simple golden rules to her emphasis on practice and community,
Yeah.
it's a very well-rounded approach.
And it really makes you think about how we approach language learning in general.
Wow.
So often it feels like it's all about memorizing grammar rules and vocabulary lists,
Right.
which can be pretty dry and demotivating.
It's like trying to learn to swim by reading a textbook instead of jumping in the pool.
Right.
Shalima throws you right into the deep end, but in a way that feels safe and supportive.
Exactly. And she provides those like floaties, those
Yeah.
two golden rules
Right.
to keep you afloat while you're figuring things out.
Yeah.
But what really struck me is her emphasis on confidence as the key to fluency.
That's such a crucial point.
Yeah.
So many language learners get stuck in this cycle of fear and self-doubt,
Oh, totally.
worried about making mistakes and sounding foolish.
It's like they're so focused on being perfect that they never actually allow themselves to, speak freely and naturally.
That's where Shalima's approach really shines.
Yeah.
She encourages learners to embrace mistakes as part of the process,
Right.
to see them as opportunities for growth rather than setbacks.
It's that classic growth mindset in action.
Ex-
And when you approach language learning with that attitude,
Yeah,
it takes the pressure off
totally.
and allows you to enjoy the journey.
It becomes less about reaching some elusive destination of fluency
Right.
and more about the daily practice, the
Yeah.
small victories, the connections you make with other learners.
It's about finding your voice and expressing yourself authentically,
Yes,
even if you stumble over a few words along the way.
exactly. And I think that's a message that resonates far beyond the realm of language learning.
Oh, for sure.
It's a philosophy that can benefit us in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. Whether you're learning a new skill, starting a business, or just trying to navigate the ups and downs of everyday life,
Yeah?
that growth mindset, that willingness to embrace challenges and learn from mistakes is essential.
It's about recognizing that perfection is an illusion
Right.
and that true growth comes from stepping outside of your comfort zone and embracing that messy, imperfect process of learning.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Shalima's method,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
I hope they leave feeling inspired and empowered to take charge of their own language learning journey. I hope they realize that fluency isn't some magical destination reserved for a select few,
Right.
but a skill that anyone can develop with the right approach and mindset.
And I hope they feel a little less intimidated by the prospect of speaking English.
Yeah.
Knowing that they have simple, powerful tools like those two golden rules to guide them along the way.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe this sparks a curiosity to explore whether other languages have similar shortcuts to fluency.
That's a great thought to leave them with.
Yeah.
Always be curious.
Yeah.
Always be open to new approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And never underestimate the power of simple, consistent effort.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So to everyone out there who's been dreaming of speaking English more confidently,
Yeah.
remember Shalima's message. Embrace the journey, celebrate the small victories, and never be afraid to make a few mistakes along the way. That's where the real learning happens.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Right.
Language learning should be an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
A chance to connect with new people, explore new cultures, and expand your horizons.
That's it for this deep dive, folks. We hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep those conversations flowing.
Absolutely.